A palace insider said the atmosphere inside Zarzuela changed the moment Leonor started packing personal items instead of ceremonial ones. Not uniforms, not official documents, books, old photographs, handwritten notes, small things, and honestly, that detail hit me harder than the headlines did. Because moving out of Zarzuela Palace isn't just about location. I think it's the first visible sign that Princess Leonor is quietly crossing the line from protected daughter to independent future queen. And if you've been watching royal families long enough, you know that transition is usually where everything changes. Not publicly at first, emotionally, psychologically, strategically. That's why this story matters way more than people realize. Because while the media is treating this like a normal, growing up moment, I think something much bigger is happening behind the scenes. Leonor isn't just leaving home. She may be leaving behind the version of herself the palace carefully controlled for years. And honestly, that should make everyone pay attention. Because every future monarch eventually reaches a dangerous phase where they stop being managed and start making decisions for themselves. This feels like the beginning of that phase. If you're new to Leonor's story, subscribe. I post every day. Because I genuinely think we're witnessing the most important transformation of her entire public life right now, and most people are only focusing on the surface-level drama instead of what this actually means for the future of the Spanish monarchy. Now here's what fascinates me. The palace hasn't denied the growing reports about Leonor creating more independence from Zarzuela. In fact, their silence almost feels intentional. Controlled, like they want the public to slowly adjust to the idea without officially announcing some dramatic separation. And that strategy is smart. Because royal exits are dangerous. Not physically, narratively. The second a royal leaves the traditional structure behind, people start asking uncomfortable questions. Who is influencing them now? Who do they trust? Are they rebelling? Are they preparing for power? Are family tensions worse than the public knows? We've seen this happen everywhere. Look at Prince Harry leaving the royal system in Britain. That became emotional warfare between institution and individuality. The palace lost control of the narrative almost instantly. But Leonor's situation feels completely different. This doesn't feel rebellious. It feels calculated. And honestly, that might be even more significant. Because I don't think Leonor is running away from the monarchy. I think she's preparing to survive it. That's a huge difference. And here's my hot take that some royal watchers will disagree with. I believe King Felipe and Queen Letizia may actually support this move more than the public realizes. Why? Because modern monarchies cannot survive if heirs remain emotionally dependent forever. At some point, the future sovereign needs distance from the institution to build authority as an individual human being. That process is painful, but necessary. And if you really pay attention, Leonor's recent appearances already feel different. More composed, more self-contained, less like a princess being guided. More like someone internally rehearsing leadership. Even the body language changed. That's not accidental. While Prince William and Kate Middleton continue representing stability through family imagery in Britain, Spain seems to be building something slightly different around Leonor, competence through independence. Almost like the monarchy wants her to look less sheltered and more capable of standing alone. And honestly, in 2026, that's probably the correct strategy. Because audiences today are ruthless toward privilege. If Leonor stayed permanently inside palace walls, protected from ordinary life forever, younger generations would eventually disconnect from her emotionally. The image would feel artificial. So what does the palace do? It creates movement, growth, transition, a future queen learning separation. And suddenly people stop seeing a royal title, and start seeing a young woman navigating pressure in real time. That creates emotional investment. But there's another layer nobody's talking about enough. Distance changes power dynamics inside families. Especially royal ones. The second Leonor gains more personal space, she also gains more personal influence. More control over routines, advisors, friendships, priorities, even public image. That matters enormously, because monarchies are systems built around access. Who gets close to the heir? Who shapes their worldview? Who becomes emotionally trusted? Those relationships quietly shape future reigns. And I think the palace understands Leonor's next chapter cannot happen entirely under parental supervision anymore. Honestly, there's something psychologically fascinating about this moment too. Imagine spending your entire childhood inside one of the most controlled environments in Europe. Every schedule planned, every appearance monitored, every friendship evaluated through security, optics, and protocol. Then suddenly, you begin building a life with more private decisions. That transition must feel terrifying and addictive at the same time. Freedom becomes exciting precisely because it's rare. And maybe that's why public fascination around Leonor feels so intense lately. People are no longer just watching a princess. They're watching a young woman test the edges of her own independence while carrying the weight of an entire monarchy on her shoulders. That's compelling storytelling even beyond royal fandom. And honestly, I think that's why videos about Leonor are exploding online right now. She represents a contradiction modern audiences can't stop analyzing. Extreme privilege, mixed with visible pressure. Luxury, mixed with isolation. Global attention, mixed with personal loneliness. People see that tension and project their own emotions onto it. Now let's talk about the part the media keeps avoiding. What is the hidden cost of Leonor moving away from Zarzuela emotionally? Because there is one. Actually, several. The first is loneliness. And I don't mean ordinary loneliness. I mean the strange kind that comes from never fully knowing whether people like you or your future title. That problem gets worse once royal heirs become more independent. New friendships become political. Relationships become headlines. Mistakes become international news. Every decision becomes heavier. And honestly, I sometimes wonder if Leonor already feels emotionally older than people her age because of that pressure. There's this guarded energy around her recently that's hard to ignore. Not sadness exactly, just caution, like someone constantly aware they're being observed. And here's where I think the palace strategy becomes risky. The more independent Leonor becomes, the more human she appears. But becoming more human also means becoming more vulnerable to criticism. That's the trade-off. Perfect royal images are safe but emotionally distant. Authentic royal images are relatable but unpredictable. Spain seems to be choosing relatability now. That's bold, especially after years where European monarchies became terrified of scandal after watching what happened to other royal families globally. But maybe Spain understands something important. Modern audiences don't expect perfection anymore. They expect emotional realism, and Leonor's transition away from Zarzuela creates exactly that feeling. It tells the public, she's growing, she's changing, she's figuring life out too. That emotional accessibility matters more than royal protocol now. Even social media reactions reveal this shift. People aren't discussing palace architecture or royal tradition anymore. They're discussing Leonor almost like someone they personally know. That's powerful and dangerous, because emotional connection creates expectation. Now let me say something controversial again. I don't think the real story is that Leonor is moving out. I think the real story is that the palace wants the world to see her moving out. Huge difference. Royal institutions calculate visibility carefully. Nothing becomes public accidentally anymore. Especially not involving the future Queen of Spain. So why allow this narrative now? Simple. Because independence strengthens legitimacy. A future queen who appears emotionally mature, self-directed, and capable of functioning outside palace dependency feels stronger to modern audiences. It modernizes the monarchy without destroying tradition completely. Actually, it's kind of genius when you think about it. Instead of fighting modern culture, the palace is adapting to it slowly. Not by turning Leonor into an influencer, but by turning her into something rarer in 2026. A disciplined young public figure who still feels real. And honestly, that's why comparisons with people like Mr. Beast weirdly make sense here too. Stay with me. Mr. Beast mastered modern internet trust by making audiences feel they were watching genuine effort instead of manufactured celebrity behavior. Leonor's public image is evolving similarly, less fantasy, more visible responsibility. Less fairy tale princess, more future leader under pressure. That shift changes everything, and maybe that's the real reason this story exploded globally. Because deep down, people understand that moving out of Zarzuela Palace is symbolic. It marks the beginning of emotional separation from childhood, from protection, from dependence, from being the king's daughter. And the closer Leonor gets to becoming her own figure instead of just the monarchy's image, the more unpredictable the future becomes. That unpredictability fascinates people. It scares people too, because once heirs become independent, they stop being entirely controllable. History proves that over and over again. Some become extraordinary rulers, others become crises. And honestly, I think the world is watching Leonor so intensely right now because nobody is fully sure yet which direction her story will go. But one thing feels obvious to me. The girl who once stood quietly behind her parents at palace ceremonies is disappearing. And someone much more powerful may be emerging in her place.